Today we're going to review Penn Foster Online High School. A lot of you have asked me about this one, so I finally signed myself up so I could test it all out. I'll be showing you the actual online curriculum later in this video, which is not something that you're going to be able to access on their website without signing up. So let's review Penn Foster Online High School together. As you may already know, Penn Foster Online High School is an accredited online school that is completely self-paced with no live classes to attend. It's also one of the most affordable online schools out there, and it's a pretty easy way to earn your high school diploma online. You can get your diploma for as low as $1,099 if you pay in full upfront. Or you can pay monthly with an initial payment of just $20 and then a payment of $55 a month after that. So it's actually less expensive than Acellus Academy, which is surprising. I was sure that that was the cheapest online school option out there. Of course, you will need to pay the entire cost in order to get your diploma, so you can't just sign up senior year and expect to pay only $55 a month and then graduate. You're going to have to pay off the entire balance before they will issue your diploma. But they will reduce your tuition by $20 for each course transferred. So if you're starting after 9th grade, then you may be able to save a little bit of money that way. If you're really motivated, you can actually complete your online high school diploma at Penn Foster in as little as 6 months. Although they do claim that the average student will take 14 months to complete the program. In order to enroll, you need to be at least 13 years old and you must have completed 8th grade. For homeschoolers, if you're starting in 9th grade, you can just tell them that you were homeschooled. That's what I did when I signed up, and I didn't have to provide any documentation at all. However, if you're coming from a public or private school, or if you're transferring after 9th grade, then you may need to provide them with some documentation. And if you want to get any credits transferred, then you can contact them for an evaluation. They will accept up to a maximum of 15 credits for transfer. Unlike most other online schools that I have reviewed, with Penn Foster, you don't actually pick your courses when you sign up. You also only get access to a few courses at a time. And they don't open up the electives option until the end, after you have completed all of your core coursework. When you first start, you're going to be forced to take 3 introductory courses. These are super simple courses that reminded me a lot of corporate training courses that I used to have to take when I worked for a major insurance company before I ever started my YouTube channel. And it looks like you can only be taking 3 courses at any one time, so you'll have to complete at least one of these introductory courses before one of the regular courses will open up. For me, the first real course that I was able to unlock was English 1. But if you're waiting for a credit transfer evaluation, at least you can get started on these first 3 courses, so you'll have something to work on. They do count for credit and they are required. Although, as I will show you a little bit later in the video, they are pretty easy to skip right through. And speaking of skipping right through, you won't need to read all the text or watch all the videos in the courses in order to pass the course, but you will need to take and pass the quizzes. And if you try to go too fast, they may suspend your account until some time has passed. This has to do with keeping their accreditation and making sure someone isn't trying to complete their high school diploma too quickly. So you can't just pull an all-nighter and finish your entire high school coursework in 24 hours. Although, if they didn't have the hold, it might actually be possible. Just keep in mind that if you try to do too much at once, you could be locked out for a while. When we start looking at the actual curriculum, I will show you the message that I got when I tried to go too fast. And I guess now is a good time to get started. So the main student screen is pretty simple. You'll see the current course that you were last working in here, and any units that you have already completed will be checked off. Over here is your program information. Here is your payment information, and you'll see if your payments are up to date. And mine shows $79 a month here, even though it said $55 on the website. I'm not really sure why. Maybe there were some other fees that I didn't notice, but I really can't remember. Down here, they have upcoming courses, which is basically just the 3 current courses you are either working on or haven't started yet. If we click on View All Courses and Grades, this is where you can see your entire high school diploma plan laid out for you. As you can see, I have completed the 3 required introductory courses. These are Foundations of Personal Growth, Learning Success Through Technology, and Digital Literacy. As I said before, these reminded me of corporate training courses I used to have to take at my old insurance job. I didn't read a single word of any of these courses, nor did I watch a single video. I just clicked right through to the quizzes, and I was able to pass just fine. Just like a corporate training video, the multiple choice questions were worded in a way where you kind of had to be an idiot to get most of them wrong. I'll show you some examples in a minute. But first, let's just look at the rest of the courses here. As I said before, I didn't get to pick any of these when I signed up. This is just what they gave me. We've got English 1 through 4, Civics, General Math 1 and 2, U.S. and World History, Earth Science, Biology and Physical Science, Fitness and Nutrition, Personal Finance, and room to choose 5 electives once your core classes are completed. As you can see, these are like the bare minimum high school diploma course offerings. I have heard that you can contact customer service to have some of the courses swapped out, such as the General Math course. I will show you that in a bit, but let's just say I'm pretty sure my 11-year-old could pass it easily. So if you want more of a challenge or a nicer looking transcript, definitely think about asking for different courses. You need 21 credits to graduate, and as you can see here, I've already earned 2 credits towards my high school diploma. And you can also see your current GPA here. And up top here are your notifications. You can see the notification I got when my account was put on hold for completing too many quizzes in a short amount of time. Okay, so now let's take a look at the courses so you can see what the actual curriculum is like. I'll start by showing you a bit from those first 3 courses that you're required to take, and then we'll look at English 1 and General Math 1. Here is the Foundations of Personal Growth course. All the courses have a page like this with the units laid out for you. This course has 7 units plus the Getting Started section. Over here you can view the course syllabus, and you can also make an appointment with an instructor if you want to. For a course like this, they don't let you choose any specific person, but for the English and math courses, there are different instructors to choose. And then you can just make an appointment on the calendar. Over here, you can see the status of the quizzes for each unit, your current grade, and number of attempts. And down here, you can download PDF versions of the lessons. Let's take a look at one of the lessons. On the top right here is where you can navigate through the lessons. And one thing I want to point out here is that you can just click through all of it without reading anything and get right to the quiz, and it will mark it complete. You also don't need to watch any of the videos or do any of the checkpoint exercises. You can just click through it all and go right to the quiz. I did try to see if I could just do the quiz without clicking through these pages, but unfortunately you do need to go through the pages and get the check mark before it will mark the whole unit as complete. They have a read aloud option here for anyone who may need it. As you can see, most of the lessons in this course are just text to read, but there are a couple short videos to break things up. And this is how this whole course is going to look. And it's actually how the other 2 starter courses looked as well. And then the quizzes are all multiple choice. I found the quizzes for all of the 3 starting courses very easy. I did not read a single lesson and was able to pass them all. Not even because I necessarily always knew the information, but the way the answer choices were presented often made it pretty easy to guess. There were a lot of absolutes, and you just know if it says only or never, then that's probably not the correct answer. We'll see if that's still the case when we get to the actual courses like math and English. At the end of the course, they have what they call a capstone project. For the first 3 courses, that was basically just a longer quiz. And then once you complete that, you're done with the course and it marks the course complete and opens up a new course immediately. Now let's take a look at the English course. Here are all the units in this course. It seems like this course is basically focused on writing skills. I'm not really seeing anything here on literature or grammar, although they do have this unit on the building blocks of a narrative text. Let's take a look at a couple of the units. We'll start with Unit 3, the written argument. Over on the left here is the unit outline. First, we have an introduction and then a little overview here. Then we're learning about main points and key details. Then we have a short biography of Mark Zuckerberg to read. And I'm just going to keep clicking through here now so you can see what this course is like. There's a video to watch, a poem to read, and then here they actually have you read a short story called The Necklace. And then you'll read The Gift of the Magi. And then you'll compare both texts in this writing activity. But I want to point out here that this is not graded. You don't have to even do this at all. You can just take the quiz and that is where your course grade is going to come from. So now let's see how I do on the quiz, having not really read through any of this material. And as you'll see, this quiz doesn't really have anything to do with the material in the unit we just went through. Like a lot of the quizzes on here, I've noticed they just present you with a scenario that you're then going to apparently use what you learned to answer the questions correctly. But they aren't really quizzing you on the material. As you may see here, a lot of the answers are easy to guess based simply on how they are worded. You can just sort of scan the paragraph above like I did, and then it's pretty easy to figure out the answer. Now, I'm not a 9th grader, so maybe it would be harder for them. I don't really know, but look, I got 100% without even trying. I suppose I could have learned something if I had read through all the lessons and watched the videos, but my point is that wasn't necessary to pass the course. Let's look at one more English unit and then we'll switch to math. Let's try Foundations of Text Analysis. This unit starts with a short video on text analysis. Remember, you don't actually have to watch this video unless you want to. Then there are some short slides and a practice exercise that you don't actually have to do. Then there are some more slides to read through. And then there is a practice exercise you can do if you want, but again, this is not going to count towards a grade, nor is it even required. There is also a practice exercise here on challenging vocabulary. And now let's see if this quiz has anything to do with the material. This time, the scenario you're presented with is about a new video game. So as you can see, all the questions in this quiz are going to be about this pretend scenario. Even though you may have learned the skills to pass this quiz by going through the unit, it isn't actually quizzing you on the material in the unit. And I'm again reminded of my old corporate job. This is exactly like many online training courses we were forced to take, and I did the same thing with those. I just clicked through and did the quiz at the end. So regardless of the material, it seems like all the quizzes are just going to be like this. But now let's switch over to math and see if that is any different. So here is the General Math 1 course. We're going to be learning about place value, addition and subtraction, multiplication and division, decimals, fractions, ratios, and measurements. So basically like elementary school math here. So if you don't need a remedial math course, I suggest having them switch this out for you. But if you just want to pass the course and get your diploma, you can certainly just leave this as is. Let's take a look at a couple of the units now. Let's see what they're covering for addition and subtraction first. We're starting by learning some mental math strategies for addition and subtraction, which are topics that are taught in early elementary school, at least in the math curriculum that we use in our homeschool. I don't see anything wrong with the way this material is presented, and it's a good skill for anyone to have. I just hope that most 9th graders already know this. But if you don't, or you need a refresher, then this looks like it will help you. Then we move on from mental math to strategies using expanded form and the standard algorithm. There's a video here that doesn't work, and I will mention here that there are some instances where things don't always work on here. I've also noticed typos, so it's not perfect, although I'm not sure any digital technology is perfect. And here's another video that doesn't work. And another. So maybe it's just my connection. I'm not sure. But anyway, this is how the lessons are in this unit. And then of course we have a quiz at the end. There are some practice problems you can do before the quiz, but as you know, these are not required. So now let's see if this quiz has anything to do with what we just learned. As you can see, we're still going to be presented with a fake scenario, and all of the questions are going to be based on that scenario. But at least with math, you do actually need to know how to do the math in order to get the correct answer. And if you didn't already know, then hopefully you would have learned it in this unit. There are only 9 questions, and obviously for me it was pretty easy. And it's always going to be multiple choice, which in my opinion is not the best for learning math, but online math quiz technology is limited, I guess, especially when you get to higher math and have all those symbols that aren't available on a standard keyboard. Okay, let's look at one more math unit, and then I'll share a few more things that you need to know about Penn Foster Online High School. Let's try the unit on fractions. So here they are using a pizza to help explain the basics of fractions. So this is like very basic, as if you've never heard of fractions before, which hopefully you have by 9th grade. Then we've got some other ways to look at fractions to help you understand the concept. Then we're moving on to mixed numbers and improper fractions, finding equivalent fractions, putting fractions in order from least to greatest, adding fractions, subtracting fractions, multiplying fractions, and dividing fractions. So that is a whole lot of information on fractions for one unit. But again, hopefully most of that would be a refresher. And then as you probably guessed, our quiz is going to have a little pretend scenario that all the questions will pertain to. But since it's math, the questions are going to be based on the material that we just learned. You will need to understand this stuff about fractions in order to pass the quiz. But there are only 9 questions, and it's not that hard. And also remember, you get 3 attempts for all these quizzes. So if you didn't do so well the first time, you can try again. Okay, so hopefully that gave you a good idea of what the curriculum at Penn Foster is like. Now there are a few more things that I want to go over with you. First is the rapid progression policy. As I mentioned earlier, they do limit how many quizzes you are allowed to complete in a 7-day period. They claim that if you are newly enrolled, that you will only get a warning in the first 30 days, but that is not what happened to me. My account was placed on hold when I hit the 15 exams mark. This limit is on a rolling 7-day period. So my advice is just try to space out the quizzes so this doesn't happen to you, as it can be frustrating to be locked out of your courses. I also want to mention that they do have a chat function that you can use, but it is a virtual assistant. If you need to speak to an actual teacher, you will need to do so by scheduling an appointment or visiting during their office hours, which you can do virtually. You can do this from the course page under where it says My Instructor. I also want to talk about how you graduate from Penn Foster Online High School. And it's actually really simple. Once you complete all your courses, as long as your balance is paid in full, then they send you a copy of your diploma both virtually and by mail. You can also order more copies if you need to. I also want to talk about the courses they offer. You can actually contact Penn Foster and enroll in an individual course if you want to. Here are the courses you can choose from. And remember, you can also call and request to have your courses switched, such as if you want to swap out that general math course. I am assuming that they would swap out other courses as well, but you will need to contact them in order to do so. So I think that is everything that I wanted to go over with you today about Penn Foster Online High School. So now is the part of the video where I give you my honest opinion. So do I think this is a good option for an online high school? Well, that definitely depends on what you're looking for. If your goal is an affordable online high school diploma that you can complete at your own pace, then I think this is a perfectly fine option. It's a legitimate accredited online school, and I found it to be much more professional than something like Acellus Academy. There were no shady business practices or false promises as far as I could tell. While the courses that I tested were not especially rigorous, they covered the basics well enough. I did not get to test out the higher level courses or any of the history or science courses, but I assume they would be laid out in a similar way. Now, if you're looking for a challenging, high quality private online high school that's going to help you get into a good college, then this might not be the best choice for you. There are plenty of other options out there, but they will likely be more expensive. So you really have to weigh your options. If you're looking for recommendations for other online schools for high school, I do have a lot of video reviews on my channel that you can check out. If you have any questions, please let me know in the comments and I will be happy to answer. And if there are any other online schools that you'd like me to review, let me know and I will add them to my list. Thank you so much for watching.